Hi, it's Julie from Spellbound, and today I'm going to be making this lovely 2-row necklace using lots of lovely summer colours. We've got a row of chain that supports pendants, and we've got a row of seed beads that supports dangling beads and other beads threaded onto the length. They come just at about the same length, so when you're wearing it, they gently twist around each other, giving it a really modern, contemporary look. It's a great way of using up odds and ends. It's also a great way of bringing together unusual colours. In this case, I've used a sort of purpley pink and lemon yellow, which I happen to have in these little pendants, and it's worked rather well. I've got my bead selection for my design together, and I have started with these lovely leaves that start at transparent yellow at the top and fade into pink, a bit like a sunset. So these two colours in this one bead have informed the choice of the other components. So I've got some little pendants, delightful little daisies and a butterfly in yellow and in pink. I've got these wonderful check flower beads with this lovely dark pink in the centre and pale pink on the edge. And I've picked up the yellow with these sunshine yellow crystals, which will really help to give it a little bit of sparkle. I've got two colours of seed beads. I've got a buttercup yellow in a size 8, and I've got this lovely purpley pink colour which matches this sunset pink very nicely in a size 10, a slightly smaller bead. I've got a length of chain for the chain row, and this has got relatively large links that will easily take a jump ring. So that will enable me to dangle my pendants. I've got some head pins to make some extra dangles from the beads, and my necklace itself, the strong part of the design, will be connected onto the clasp using calotte crimps, which I have here. Now, to start off, I'm going to do the chain part of the necklace, so I need to divide up my beads and decide what I'm going to do. Once I've got them laid out, I'll be back to you to show how to start. I've set out my beads in 2 rows. One row I plan to attach directly to the chain, and this is where I've put the little enamel pendants because they are designed to dangle, and I will use little jump rings to attach them on. The remaining beads will all need to be pinned and looped to attach to the chain, and that's a very simple process. It goes onto a head pin. You might want to put a seed bead below it or a seed bead above it. Then you need to trim, and you need to make a loop. And just try and make the loop nice and neat and tight against the top of the bead or the beads. Now, I have prepared in advance some little crystal dangles, so I'm going to add those in now. And I need one more, so let's make it let's put a yellow bead on as well and a pink one. That will make a nice little dangle. So I'm going to trim and loop. So that's my dangles for my chain length. Now the chain I've cut to approximately the right length. It might be a few links over, but that gives me the opportunity to change the length when everything's ready to put together, so I can get exactly what I want. The other row of beads I'm going to assemble with needle and thread. so I can put seed beads in between them and add more colour into the design. Now here I've got my bicoloured leaves. Now they won't really go onto a jump ring, they're too thick and there's a possibility of breaking the leaf, so those are much better onto the thread, and obviously these beads thread straight through. Now you'll notice that both lines are not symmetrical, they're sort of off centre, and I'm not actually sure if they've got a centre bead, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I haven't got a centre point on this one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, nor on that one. But I'm not going to space them out equally anyway. So what I'm trying to do is get the beads to sort of fall in the gaps, the beads from these to fall in the gaps between these and vice versa. Right, I'm going to start with the chain and I'm going to find the middle. So that's the middle of my chain. Now I'm going to have to use jump rings to join these prepared links on. And as we've just found out, I haven't got something to go directly in the middle. They're going to have to go sort of either side of the middle, but I'm not going to be too precise about it. I just want to get them on in a nice sort of pattern. So that was the centre front. I'm going to pick up a link to one side with my jump ring, put on my first pendant and close the jump ring. Let's see which is the shorter side. That side. So this side is going to go out that way. So 2 pairs of pliers to open jump ring, opening gap at the top, 2 pairs of pliers on, twist to open, short distance along, we'll go in about there, and add the next pendant. Right, we'll do the same again, 2 pairs of pliers, twist the jump ring open, another gap along and add in the next angle. And the next, and there's the gap. Twist it open. As you can see, they're approximately the same distance apart, but I'm certainly not link counting. I'm just trying to get onto the chain at a reasonable distance from one another. There we go. So that's half the chain done. I'm going to do the other half and I'll be back to you to show you how to do the stringing part of the design. I've got the pendants on the chain and I've set it out in an approximate ovally circle. It's the best I can do to fit it all on the screen for you. And now I need to plan out exactly where I want, or approximately where I want these beads to fall in between the gaps when I do my stringing. So I'm just going to pop them on in approximately the places I think they might look quite nice, and then I can change them around if I want to as I go along. I think that looks reasonable. I'm not sure I want that big leaf quite so far forward, so I'm just going to swap that around a little bit, and I think that will work. Now I've set everything out in a circle because it's so much easier to see the design like this. You could do it straight out, especially as we're going to make the rows approximately the same length, But if you wanted one definitely to sit inside the other or below the other, you need to work with it as a circle, because you'll be surprised what the difference is from a straight line and bringing it back together at the back, what it makes to the lie of the necklace. Right, now we're going to start at this end and we're going to work our way around. I'm going to be using a culotte crimp, and a culotte crimp is 2 little cups, 2 little half beads, and in between there is a little hole, and that is where the thread runs. The knot's going to be inside one of the cups, and we're going to pull the thread out that way. Now before I attach the culotte, I need to make a knot at the end of my thread. I'm using a double thread, and I've got just about 1.20 meters, which will give me enough to go all the way around the necklace and all the way back again, and give me plenty to do the ends. I'm using a double thread because I need it to be nice and strong, and as it's interacting with this chain, if it's a single thread, it could well wear through and snap. Before I attach the culotte, I need to think about how to make the knot. I need a nice big knot that won't fall through that hole. That's quite a big hole. So I'm going to use a stopper bead. I'm going to thread on one of my size 10 seed beads, pull it all the way towards the end, leaving about 10 centimeters before the end, and then I'm going to pull one of those threads out, so it's just on one side of the thread. I'm going to put the 2 threads back together, and about 10 centimeters from the end of the thread I'm going to tie them both together in an overhand knot. So there's the 2 ends of the thread together, there's the knot, and that traps my little seed bead, which has run away, onto the thread. There it is. There's my little seed bead, and it can't go back past the knot, and that's going to act as my stopper. I need to find the needle again, and then if I pass through the culotte crimp inside of the cups to the outside, pull through, there's that little bead acting as a stopper inside the cups. Right, I'm going to leave that there because I want to follow the curve of the work. So I'm just going to start by putting on some seed beads. Now this is my first feature bead, so I'm going to put them on relatively randomly, in that I want to put a few of these yellow seed beads on to make sure that the colour follows through. Let's have a little look. That's about right. Let's put our feature bead on. And that's the start of our threaded length. I just need to make sure that chain is fully extended. Right, now I'm going to work towards the leaf. I'm putting on more pink than yellow, mainly because it's a smaller bead, but also the yellow is quite strong in the design already with the yellow crystal and the yellow in the flowers. That's nearly right. Let's have a little look. It doesn't have to be exact. These feature beads can move backwards and forwards as you're doing your design. That's about right. So I've come along towards my leaf, and I'm going to need 1 extra bead to hold that leaf in place, and the extra bead is going to act as a little hanger for the leaf. So I'm going to go through the leaf, make sure everything's pulled through, and then I'm going to go back up in the opposite direction through that hanger bead. And as I pull through, I want to create a nice neat strap of thread around the top of the leaf so the leaf can dangle. And then the preceding leaf, the one before, sorry, the preceding bead on the main strand, I'm going to go forwards through that one. Let's have a little look at what that's done. There's the bead that's supporting the leaf, the hanging bead, and then the thread's come back through, or it's gone forwards through this bead here, which is the preceding bead. So the thread is now going in the right direction to continue the design, and we've got the little leaf dangling on a bead. Right, let's put that back to where it was. And we're ready to do the next section. I just need to make sure the chain and the culotte are sitting right. And that one is going to go in about there. That's just a few more seed beads. See, I need a few more than that. It's really quite hard to do random. You just end up fiddling with it, so try not to do too much fiddling. Just go with the flow. Easier said than done, I know. I'm picking up these yellow beads. I'm really trying not to put a precise number of pink beads in between, but sometimes I just fail miserably. Have a look at that one. That's it, that's fallen into that gap, and the next one is another dangly leaf. So now as I'm working on a bead mat, you can see how easy it is to pick the beads up from the surface of the bead mat. But if you haven't got a bead mat, a folded tea towel or a t-shirt will do exactly the same thing. It's just a bit of practice to get quick at picking up the seed beads with the point of your needle. Right, so I've got to the position where I want my leaf to dangle, and I've put on that extra hanger bead. So it's through the leaf, back up through the hanger bead, you need to make sure when you're using a double thread that both threads pull through equally, and then we need to go forward through the preceding bead. Go forwards through that bead. And let's pop down, and you can see we're starting to get the effect that we want. I'm going to work through the rest of these. When I get to the far end, I'll show you how to attach the other culotte. I've reached the end of my threaded sequence, and I've added on all the remaining leaves, crystals, and there was an extra flower or two to put on as well. And I've held everything up, because that's the easiest way to see that it works, to make sure that it's the right length. Now I want mine to be exactly the same length in the chain and exactly the same length in my threaded length, and that includes that little extra bit added on by the culotte. So I've held it up, checked I've got the right length, and now I'm ready to add the second culotte. Now I'm going to go into the culotte. So this time I'm going from the outside to the inside, and I could just finish off with a knot in there, but I want this to be as durable as possible, so I want to take the thread all the way back through to make sure it's nice and firm. So I need an anchor bead, which is one of my size 10 beads, and then I'm going to go back out through the hole in the culotte. Now I just need to tension everything to make sure it's right, so I'm just going to move the chain out of the way. And I need to make sure there's no gaps showing, everything's pulled up nice and neat. And now I can start to work back along the main strand to double up all of the work I've just done. So I'm just going to pass back through the seed beads. To make sure everything is nice and firm. Now I've already got a double thread going through everything, so this makes it 4 threads. Now I'm just coming up to my first dangly leaf. Now ideally I would like to re-stitch this as well, so I'm going to go down through this bead. It's a bit awkward because it's sort of going around a corner through the leaf, back up through this bead here, and this is where it might get a bit difficult because we've now got 8 threads going through that single bead. Got 2 going down, 2 going up, 2 going down, 2 going up. Now I need to make sure I pick up the right bead to go forward through on the main strand. There we go. So that is now super strong. I'm going to work back all the way along and I'll show you how to finish off the design. Right, I've come all the way back through everything. I've reinforced all of these dangles. So now we're ready to finish off the thread. At the moment I'm outside the original culotte. I'm going to go through the hole to emerge alongside my first 2 thread ends, and I'm just going to tie them together. So it's an overhand knot, very simple, followed by a second one. And that means that this thread is attached to this thread and everything is nice and secure. Now to make extra sure, I'm going to dab the knots with a bit of nail polish. Just clear or any colour you've got will do. It just stops the thread wearing as it goes through the hole. I'm doing that at both ends, and then I'm going to use just finger pressure to close the culottes over the seed bead. On this end I'm leaving the ends attached because it's easier to position the seed bead when the threads are attached. There we go, nice and secure. And now I can trim off. Remove the thread and we have our beaded length all complete. Now I've got my chain length here. I'm going to join them together, but I need to make sure I've got them the right way around. So I think that's the right way around. Alternatively I could swap the chain around, but that's going to be just about right. So I need my pliers. I'm just going to fold over that loop end of the culotte and squash it down slightly so it makes an ellipse. Same at this side. Hold it down, just makes it stronger. Then we're going to need a jump ring. So it's a jump ring, 2 pairs of pliers. Twist out the jump ring. And we've got 1, 2, and a clasp. another jump ring for the other end. 1, 2, and the clasp. And there's our finished necklace. So we've got everything just how we want it. Now if there's something that's clashing, you've got things on jump rings on your chain, so you can, if you want to, just move it a few links to the left or the right, but I think that works just about okay. It's a really nice technique and it works with several strings of seed beads as well, or multiple strands of chain. I hope you'll give it a go. It's a great way of using up lots of odds and ends that go together, and it's an absolute joy to wear. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.